This episode of Mr. Hutchings History is now streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and all your favorite platforms like Castbox, Podcast Addict, and Amazon Music. Tune in now.
Welcome to Mr. Hutchings History, where the past comes alive. Let's dive into today's story.
All right, so today we're going to dive into a pretty pivotal moment in American history.
Oh, yeah.
That shift from isolationism to interventionism.
Right.
Leading up to World War II.
Yep.
And we're going to be looking at some excerpts from a podcast called Mr. Hutchings History, specifically an episode called Isolationism Shattered. And so just to kind of set the stage, imagine the U.S. in the 1930s.
Okay.
Still reeling from World War I.
Yeah.
The horrors of that.
Right.
And the prevailing mood is this never again.
Absolutely.
Right. This desire to just avoid foreign entanglements at all costs.
Right.
And that's essentially isolationism.
Yeah. Isolationism was deeply embedded in American politics at that time.
Yeah. It's like the whole country was saying, let's just focus on ourselves and let the rest of the world kind of sort itself out.
Exactly.
But as we know, things rarely go according to plan.
That's true.
Right. History's full of surprises.
Absolutely.
So what happens when a global conflict explodes? One that threatens, America's core values and its interests.
Right.
That's exactly what we're going to find out.
Yeah. And that path from never again to full-blown involvement in World War II.
Yeah.
It was a winding one.
Right.
Full of really heated debates. A powerful anti-war movement.
Oh, okay.
And ultimately a tragedy that forces America to confront its role on the world stage.
All right. So first up, we've got the Neutrality Acts of the 1930s.
Okay.
And you can almost think of these as giant keep-out signs designed to prevent the U.S. from being pulled into another war.
Exactly.
We're talking bans on arms exports and things like the cash and carry provision, where warring nations could buy non-military goods from the U.S., but with a catch.
Yeah, they had to pay up front and transport the goods themselves.
Right, so no U.S. involvement in shipping or financing allowed.
Exactly.
So these acts, they really show just how deeply isolationist sentiment ran.
Oh, absolutely.
In the U.S. at that time.
Yeah.
So you've got this strong desire to just stay out of it, right? To just stay neutral.
Stay neutral.
But then you've got President Franklin D. Roosevelt, kind of a key figure in this whole saga.
Yeah.
And personally, he's leaning towards interventionism, but he's up against major opposition from Congress.
Yeah.
And a public still very much traumatized by World War I.
Yeah, he was walking a very delicate political tightrope.
Yeah, that's a ton of pressure.
Absolutely.
Right, to try to navigate that.
Yeah.
And then to make things even more interesting, you have the America First Committee kind of entering the scene.
Yeah.
Founded in 1940.
Okay.
This anti-war organization had over 800,000 members.
Wow.
We're talking businessmen, academics, politicians, all united in their opposition to U.S. involvement.
Yeah. The AFC's emergence really underscores how widespread those isolationist views were at the time.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a fringe group.
No.
Why?
It represented a significant portion of the American public.
And probably their most prominent spokesperson was Charles Lindbergh.
Oh, yeah, the famous aviator.
Yeah, an American hero.
Right.
And now this is where it gets really fascinating.
Right.
This man who once united the nation with his daring transatlantic flight becomes a very controversial figure because of his stance on the war.
Lindbergh's fame lent a lot of weight to the isolationist cause.
Right.
And his speeches drew huge crowds.
Yeah.
And resonated with a lot of people who were fearful of another war.
Now, his September 1941 speech in Des Moines, where he implied that Jewish groups were pushing the U.S. into war, sparked outrage and revealed a much more troubling side to the isolationist movement.
Exactly. While some people embraced those views, this speech really highlighted a darker undercurrent within the movement, where isolationist arguments became intertwined with things like xenophobia and anti-Semitism.
Right.
It's a complexity that historians have really examined in depth.
So you've got this tug of war, right, between isolationism and interventionism. You've got figures like Lindbergh and FDR on opposite sides.
Right.
And then in March 1941, things take a dramatic turn with the Lend-Lease Act.
Right.
And this is where that phrase, arsenal of democracy, comes in.
Exactly.
The U.S. starts supplying arms to allied nations, primarily Britain, but technically remains neutral.
Yeah, I think this is where FDR's political genius really shines through.
Okay.
He knew public opinion wasn't quite ready for outright war, but he also recognized the threat posed by Nazi Germany.
Right.
So with the Lend-Lease Act, he found this way to provide crucial support to the Allies while technically remaining neutral.
Right.
It was a brilliant strategic move.
I bet the isolationists were furious.
Oh, absolutely. They saw it as a violation of American neutrality and a dangerous step towards war.
And then everything changed.
December 7th, 1941.
Yeah.
The day that lives in infamy.
Right.
The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Just a devastating blow that shattered any remaining illusion of American isolation.
Over 2,400 Americans killed.
Right.
The Pacific Fleet crippled.
Yeah.
The nation was in shock.
Absolutely, and that shock quickly turned into a demand for action.
Right.
Pearl Harbor tragically proved that the world was simply too interconnected for the U.S. to remain on the sidelines.
Right.
It completely changed the national conversation.
Yeah.
Isolationism as a viable policy vanished almost overnight.
And just 3 days after the attack,
the
America First Committee disbands.
Wow.
A powerful symbol of how dramatically things had shifted.
Absolutely.
The U.S. declares war on Japan, followed by declarations from Germany and Italy.
Right.
And just like that, America's thrust
onto the world stage.
Onto the world stage.
Yeah.
It's a truly monumental turning point.
It is.
Now, while the attack on Pearl Harbor served as the catalyst, it's important to remember that FDR had been skillfully laying the groundwork for greater U.S. involvement for years.
Absolutely.
His quarantine speech in 1937, warning against aggressor nations, was an early indication of his vision for a more active American role in global affairs.
He was playing the long game.
Yeah, so while the shift to war may have seemed sudden to some, it was actually the culmination of years of careful planning and political maneuvering by FDR.
Absolutely. He expertly navigated public opinion, international events, and gradually steered the U.S. towards a path of greater global engagement.
So we've gone from never again to being fully engaged in World War II.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating how historians offer these different perspectives on this shift.
Right.
You've got the revisionists, you've got the consensus school, the realists, and the social historians, each providing their own take on American isolationism.
So the revisionists, they view it as a reaction to the disillusionment of World War I.
Okay.
Kind of a desire to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past.
Okay, so never again.
Exactly.
Right.
The consensus school sees it as a temporary departure from America's more traditional inclination towards international involvement.
Okay.
The realists, they focus on geopolitical realities and kind of the unavoidable role of the U.S. in this global power struggle.
All right. And then the social historians.
Yeah, they emphasize the impact of domestic factors.
Okay.
Like xenophobia and the fear of foreign influence on shaping isolationist sentiment.
So it's like we're looking at this complex painting from all these different angles, each perspective highlighting different detail and enriching our overall understanding.
Yeah, and it reminds us that history is rarely simple.
Right.
Or one-dimensional.
Right.
There are always multiple interpretations. Each contributing to a richer, more nuanced understanding of the past.
And that's what makes it so fascinating, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you have these monumental forces clashing.
Yeah.
Idealism versus pragmatism. Fear versus responsibility.
Right.
It feels like a pivotal crossroads.
Absolutely.
Where America really had to make a choice.
Yeah.
To cling to that perceived safety of isolation.
Right.
Or to step up and embrace a new role in the world.
And as we know, that choice had profound consequences.
Right.
Not just for the U.S., but for the entire world.
Right. And that's what we're going to explore as we continue this dive into this really fascinating period in American history.
I'm excited to see where it goes.
Me too.
Yeah. So World War II really marks the end of American isolationism.
Right.
The U.S. emerged from that conflict as a global superpower.
Right.
With incredible military and economic might.
And it wasn't just about power, though, right?
Yeah.
It was about taking on those responsibilities that come with being a leader on the world stage. The U.S. played a huge role in shaping that post-war world. I mean, think about the United Nations, the Marshall Plan, the Bretton Woods system. All of these were aimed at fostering international cooperation.
Major efforts to rebuild a world shattered by war. And they represented a complete rejection of that isolationist thinking.
Like it's this commitment to actively engaging on the global stage. It's mind-blowing how much changed in such a short period.
Now it's remarkable.
From never again to leading the charge for a new world order.
It makes you think about the challenges and responsibilities that come with being a global power.
It's something that's still relevant today.
Oh, absolutely. It raises those questions that every superpower grapples with. How do you balance your national interests with global responsibilities?
When is it right to intervene? And when should you hold back?
Exactly.
There are no easy answers.
No, there aren't.
And that's where studying history, I think, becomes so crucial.
Oh, absolutely. It gives us that context and those insights into the complexities of international relations.
It's like having a roadmap. To navigate the present.
Learning from past mistakes. And drawing inspiration from those who faced similar challenges.
It helps us understand, I think, those recurring patterns in history.
Absolutely.
And those enduring forces that shape our world.
And those echoes of isolationism. The debates over intervention. The struggle to define America's role in the world. These are all themes that continue to influence U.S. foreign policy, even today.
How do we see the legacy of isolationism playing out in current debates about international trade, military interventions, global climate change?
All of these issues force us to confront that question. What is the right level of engagement with the rest of the world?
It's amazing how this historical tension continues to shape American politics and foreign policy.
Absolutely. It underscores the idea that history isn't just about dates and events. It's about understanding those enduring forces that shape our world and the choices we face as a nation.
And the consequences of those choices.
Exactly. It's a reminder that we're all part of this ongoing narrative, this grand tapestry of human history. And understanding the past is key to navigating the present and shaping the future.
So as we wrap up this part of our dive into America's shift from isolationism to interventionism, it's clear that this period holds valuable lessons.
Absolutely. It reminds us that the world is in constant flux. And so our understanding of our place in it must also adapt. Clinging to outdated ideas like strict isolationism can have disastrous consequences.
It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Exactly.
The world just doesn't work that way anymore.
It doesn't.
But it's also not about rushing headfirst into every global conflict.
No, it's about finding that balance between protecting national interests and engaging responsibly on the world stage.
And finding that balance requires thoughtful debate, careful consideration, a willingness to learn from the past.
It's about understanding the complexities of the world, recognizing how interconnected we all are, and being prepared to act when necessary, but also knowing when to exercise restraint.
Sounds like the key takeaway is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to foreign policy.
No, there isn't. It's about being adaptable, continuously learning, making informed decisions based on the specific challenges we face.
And that's why studying history is so important.
Absolutely.
To understand those forces that have shaped our world and to engage in those thoughtful conversations about the choices we face as a nation.
As a global community.
Well said.
Thank you.
And on that note,
we'd
like to leave you with a thought-provoking question to consider.
I like it.
As we grapple with these complex global challenges of today, what lessons can we draw from America's journey? From isolationism to interventionism?
How do we ensure that our engagement with the world is both effective and responsible, promoting peace and prosperity while staying true to our values?
It's something to ponder, isn't it?
It is. History offers us this wealth of knowledge and insights. But It's up to us to apply those lessons wisely as we navigate these uncharted waters of the 21st century.
Thanks for joining us on this dive.
Of course.
We hope it sparked your curiosity and inspired you to keep exploring this fascinating period in American history.
It's a pivotal one.
And how it continues to shape the world we live in.
Yeah, the echoes are still felt today.
All right, until next time.
Okay.
Keep those minds curious.
Keep questioning.
And keep diving deep.
Dives deep.
Yeah, it really is fascinating to think about.
I know, right?
How those echoes of isolationism and interventionism are still playing out today.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, how would the U.S. have responded to a global crisis like World War II?
Right.
If it had happened in a different era?
Right. Say during the 1920s when isolationist sentiment was even stronger. Or even today with rising nationalism and the complexities of a multipolar world.
It's a really thought-provoking question.
It is.
Would the U.S. have been able to stay on the sidelines?
Right.
Or would the interconnectedness of the world have inevitably drawn them in?
It's tough to say for sure. But history kind of suggests that a complete retreat into isolationism is rarely a sustainable option in the long run.
Okay.
The world's just too interconnected. I mean, challenges like pandemics, climate change, economic crises, these things transcend national borders.
They do.
You can't just hide from them.
So these global issues demand cooperation.
Right.
And this recognition that our fates are all intertwined.
Exactly.
And that's perhaps the most crucial lesson that we can draw from this whole historical shift.
I think so.
It's a reminder that engaging responsibly on the global stage
isn't just about power or self-interest.
Right.
It's about recognizing our shared humanity.
Absolutely.
And working together to address these challenges that affect us all.
I think that's a really powerful takeaway.
Me too. And it seems like this dive wasn't just about understanding a historical event, but also about grappling with these enduring questions that continue to shape our world today.
That's the beauty of history, isn't it?
Yeah.
It provides that lens through which we can examine not just the past, but ourselves and the world around us.
And it challenges us to think critically.
Absolutely.
To question assumptions. To consider different perspectives.
Exactly.
And ultimately, it empowers us to make more informed decisions and to navigate the complexities of the present with a greater sense of awareness and purpose.
Because I said it better myself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we hope it's left you with a deeper understanding of this pivotal moment in American history and those enduring questions it raises about our role in the world.
Yeah, we encourage you to keep exploring this topic.
Absolutely.
To delve deeper into the different perspectives and interpretations and to consider how the lessons of the past can guide us as we navigate the challenges of the present and the future.
Until next time. Keep those minds curious.
Keep questioning.
And keep diving deep.
Dive deep.
Thanks for listening to Mr. Hutchings History. Keep exploring, and we'll see you next time.